This is gonna go wrong. It shows up before you even finish your coffee. You're still leaning on the kitchen counter, morning light coming through the window, cars passing somewhere in the distance, and it's already there. Short, direct, familiar. This is gonna go wrong, and your body reacts before any logical thought has a chance. A slight tightness in your chest, your shoulders pull in a bit, your breathing shifts, almost without you noticing. Nothing dramatic, but enough. Enough to change the tone of your whole day. You grab your phone, open your emails. Nothing urgent, no disaster, but the feeling doesn't leave. It just sits there, like background noise. This is gonna go wrong. Maybe it's about that meeting later, or that message you haven't replied to, or that plan you were this close to acting on. Or maybe it's not about anything specific, just an expectation, a quiet kind of prediction that doesn't ask permission. Have you noticed that? How sometimes a thought just shows up, fully formed, no context, no explanation, but it feels too real to ignore. And the strangest part is, you don't argue with it. You don't stop and think, wait, why would this go wrong? No, you just adjust. Without realizing it, you start changing small things. You delay a reply. You check something for the third time. You hold back what you actually want to say. You tone down your excitement before you even try. Like you're trying to avoid something that hasn't even happened and maybe never will, but your body doesn't know that. To your body, it's almost certain. And what's even more interesting, this didn't start today. That sentence, or some version of it, has been here before, on other days, in other situations, with other people. Sometimes it sounds different. This won't work. You're not ready. Better not risk it. But the tone is always the same kind of prediction, always pointing forward, like it's trying to protect you from something. And at first, it even feels helpful. It makes you think twice. Avoid mistakes. Prepare better, but there's something about it. It never stops. No matter how much you prepare, how much you check, how much you try to do it right, it comes back again and again, like there's no finish line, like its only job is to keep going. And slowly, you start living around it. Not in an obvious way, not consciously, but in the details, in the small decisions no one sees, in the paths you don't take, in the versions of yourself you never try, all of it, guided by a sentence you never chose to have. This is gonna go wrong. And maybe at some point, you started to believe that's just who you are, that you're more cautious, more realistic, and more grounded. But let me ask you something, quietly. What if that's not you? What if it's something you learned without realizing it? Something that repeated so many times, it started to sound like truth. Something that feels like yours, but didn't start with you. Because thoughts like this, they don't come out of nowhere. They're built, practiced, reinforced, and then automated. And once they get there, they don't ask for permission anymore. They just take over, quietly, almost elegantly, like they're helping you. But there's a cost you don't see right away, a cost that builds up in places where you don't even notice you're giving things up. And that's what we're going to start looking at. Not to get rid of the thought, not to fight it, but to understand where it came from, why it keeps coming back, and what it's trying to avoid every time it shows up, because there is a logic to it, even if you can't see it yet. And when that logic starts to come into view, something shifts, not in a dramatic way, but enough to create a little space between you and that sentence. And maybe that's where something new begins. But before that, there's a story you need to see, a story that doesn't start with this thought, but explains why it never really leaves. Ryan doesn't seem like someone who lives with that kind of thought. If you saw him at a Starbucks, waiting for his name to be called, scrolling through his phone, you probably wouldn't notice anything off. He has a stable job, a decent role at a logistics company downtown. He shows up to meetings, gets things done. People like him. His manager trusts him. From the outside, everything works. He wakes up early, gets in the car, sits through highway traffic with his coffee in the cup holder. He gets to the office, answers emails, joins calls, reviews, spreadsheets. Nothing unusual, but there's something. Almost no one notices it because it doesn't show up out loud. It shows up in the gaps, in the small silence between one task and the next. In that moment before clicking send on an important email. In that split second when someone says, "Ryan, can you present this in tomorrow's meeting?" That's when it comes in. This is gonna go wrong. Not as a shout, more like a whisper that doesn't leave, and he doesn't react in any dramatic way. He doesn't freeze, he doesn't panic, he just adjusts. Maybe I should review this one more time. Maybe I'll wait a bit before replying. Maybe I don't need to put myself out there that much. Small decisions. Almost invisible, but repeated every day. Have you ever lived like that? Not something that knocks you down all at once, but something that slowly shapes how you move, like a light force, but constant. Ryan doesn't avoid things completely. He just doesn't go all the way. He starts projects, but takes longer to finish. He has ideas, but doesn't always share them. Opportunities show up, but there's always a reason to wait a little longer, and it all sounds reasonable. There's always a logical explanation. I just want to be sure. It doesn't hurt to check again. Better safe than sorry. But underneath, it's not really about being sure. It's about that feeling, that slight contraction in his body that shows up before the decision. That micro discomfort, asking for relief. And the relief comes when he delays, when he holds back, when he avoids even the smallest risk, even if that risk is just being seen. Some days it gets stronger. Like a Friday afternoon, when a message pops up on Slack. Hey, we're thinking about putting you on that new project next week. Something good, something he would say he wants. But his body doesn't react like it's good. His chest tightens a bit. His mind speeds up. And before any rational thought, this is gonna go wrong, and then the process starts. He thinks through everything that could go wrong, every possible scenario, every way it might fall apart. Not in an exaggerated way, in a convincing way, detailed, almost strategic, like his mind is trying to help. And maybe it is, but the effect is different. Ryan types, "Sounds good. Let me take a look at my schedule and get back to you." The quiet translation, I need time to deal with this feeling. And it's not just work. It shows up in relationships too. When someone starts getting closer, when conversations get a little more personal, when there's a real chance of something deeper, the sentence comes back. This is gonna go wrong, and his tone shifts. Shorter replies, longer gaps, everything control. Without realizing it, he avoids depth, not because he doesn't want it, but because something in him links closeness to risk. And the strange part is, he knows. At some level, he can feel it, especially at night. When he's in his apartment after dinner, the TV on just for noise, phone in his hand, scrolling without really paying attention, that's when a quiet question shows up. Why do I always do this? And maybe you've asked yourself that too. Not out loud, but in that quiet space where there's nothing left to distract you. Why do you hold back so much? Why do you think so long before you act? Why do simple things sometimes feel so heavy? Ryan doesn't have a clear answer, because for him, it's always been like this. There wasn't one specific day when it started. It was more gradual, almost invisible. A small adjustment here, an experience there, a feeling that kept repeating until it became a pattern. And once something becomes a pattern, it stops feeling strange. It starts to feel normal, like part of you. But that normal comes with a cost, not in big failures, in small absences, conversations that never happened, decisions that kept getting pushed, versions of life that stayed as possibilities. And it doesn't explode. It builds slowly, quietly, until one day you start to feel like you're always a step behind. Not because you can't move forward, but because you never fully go. And if you look closely, this pattern might be there for you too, not exactly like Ryan's, but with the same logic, the same feeling before you act, the same kind of sentence that shows up like truth. And if that's there, then it's not random. It's not just how you are. There's a structure behind it, a specific way your system learned to work, something that learned to predict, to anticipate, to try to control what hasn't even happened yet. And that started way earlier than it seems. Maybe in moments that didn't look important, maybe in situations no one ever called significant, but somehow they taught your system that getting it wrong costs something, that being seen can hurt, that it's better to predict than to deal with it later. And if this was learned, it can also be seen, named, understood. But before that, there's something missing, one piece that hasn't come into focus yet. Who exactly is saying that sentence? Because so far, it feels like just a thought. But it's not just that. There's a part of you, that keeps repeating it consistently, almost like a role, almost like a function, and as long as that part isn't seen, it keeps running in the background, like it's you, but it's not. And when that starts to become visible, the relationship changes, even if just a little, even if only for a few seconds, but enough to break that feeling that you're completely inside it. And that's exactly where the next part begins. There's a specific moment when a thought stops feeling like just a thought and starts to feel like direction. It's not when it first shows up, not when it gets louder, it's when you start obeying it without noticing. Ryan never sat down and decided, I'm going to let this thought guide my choices. Never. But over time, every small concession, every quiet adjustment, every maybe I should wait a little longer, reinforced something. The idea that this thought is right, and the more it feels right, the less it gets questioned. It becomes automatic, like a reflex. Someone says, can you lead this? Before any conscious thought even forms, this is gonna go wrong, and the body already reacts. A slight tension, heightened focus, scanning for what might break, and then comes the action, not the visible kind. The micro-action, the one almost no one sees. He holds back, delays, shrinks, and most important of all, he feels relief. A small relief, but immediate. And that relief teaches. It teaches the brain that avoiding works, that listening to the thought protects you, that obeying reduces discomfort, and that's how the loop closes. Thought, discomfort, adjustment, relief, reinforcement, again and again and again. Can you see that happening for you too? Not in theory, but in the small moments of your day, when you avoid a conversation, when you delay something simple, when you hold back a more honest version of yourself and feel that small relief afterward. That relief isn't neutral, it's the fuel. It's what keeps the pattern alive, because to your system, this feels like survival. Now, there's something even more important. This thought isn't coming out of nowhere. It's not random. It's being generated by a specific part of you, a part that learned to anticipate, to predict, to try to control the future before it happens. That part has a function. It's not trying to sabotage you. It's trying to protect you. But it uses a strategy that comes at a cost, because it runs on a simple rule. If I can predict the worst, maybe I can avoid it. That's why the sentence always points forward. This is gonna go wrong. It's never about the present, never about what's actually happening right now. It's always a simulation, an attempt to get ahead of pain. And that part needs a name, because as long as it doesn't have one, it feels like you. But once it does, it becomes something you can see, not control, not eliminate, but notice. This part is the failure predictor. It's fast, precise, convincing. It takes any situation and turns it into a possible mistake. It doesn't exaggerate in obvious ways. It builds scenarios that feel plausible, detailed, almost responsible. And that's what makes it dangerous, because it doesn't sound like fear. It sounds like intelligence, like caution, like maturity. But let me ask you something. Honestly, if this were just caution, why doesn't it ever stop? Why, even when nothing goes wrong, does it keep showing up? Why, even when you prepare, does it still say it's not enough? Because it's not about reality. It's about memory. The failure predictor isn't reacting to the present. It's reacting to something that already happened, something that taught your system that getting it wrong has a cost, and that learning didn't come as an idea. It came as an experience. Maybe it was small, something that looking back now doesn't seem like much, but in that moment, it was enough. Maybe a day in high school when you said something out loud and someone laughed or didn't, but it felt like they did. Maybe a comment from a teacher that landed heavier than it should have. Maybe something at home where making a mistake wasn't just a mistake. It was disappointment, tension, a loss of connection. And your system learned fast, quietly. Better to predict, better not to get it wrong, better not to show too much. And back then, it made sense. In that context, it protected you, reduced risk, avoided discomfort. But the problem is, that strategy never got updated. It's still running, like you're in the same environment, like every new situation carries the same weight, the same risk, the same consequences. And that's why the thought feels so real. Because it comes loaded with an old logic, a logic that once worked, but but now limits you more than it protects you. And here's the core trap. The more you try to fight this thought, the stronger it gets, because to that part, resistance means danger. If you try to ignore it, it gets louder. If you try to prove it wrong, it builds new scenarios. If you try to eliminate it, it becomes more present, because its job is not to disappear. It's to stay active, to keep predicting, to keep trying to keep you safe, even if that means keeping you small. And maybe you've noticed that the more you try to stop thinking like this, the more it comes back. Stronger, more convincing, not because you're failing, but because this isn't the kind of thing that responds to force. It responds to awareness, to the ability to see it without automatically stepping into it. And that starts with something simple. Not easy, but simple. Seeing that this sentence is not a fact. It's a prediction generated by a specific part, the failure predictor. And right there, something begins to shift. Not out there, inside, because the moment you see who's speaking, a small space opens up, a space between you and the thought. And that space is new, unfamiliar, but necessary, because without it, everything stays automatic. With it, there's a possibility, still small, still unstable, but real, the possibility of not obeying right away. And that doesn't mean ignoring it or fighting it. It means noticing. And that ability might not be trained yet, but it's there, and it has a very specific role. It won't silence the predictor, it won't stop the thought, but it can do something different, something that hasn't happened yet. Stay, without reacting at the same speed, without giving in the same way. And that changes the sequence, even if just for a few seconds. But those seconds are the beginning of something completely different. There's a quiet idea that starts to show up when you begin to see the pattern. It doesn't come as a solution or as instant relief. It shows up more like a question. What if I don't have to obey this right now? Not eliminate it, not prove it wrong, not replace it with something positive, just not obey it right away. For Ryan, this didn't arrive clearly. It wasn't in a therapy session with the perfect sentence, not in some big moment of clarity. It was small, almost unnoticeable. He was sitting in his car, stopped at a red light on the way home, radio low, sky getting darker, and the thought showed up. This is gonna go wrong. It was about the presentation the next day. Automatic, like always. His body reacted, chest tightened. His mind started running through possible mistakes, but for some reason, this time, he didn't go all the way through it. Not because he tried to stop it, but because something paused, a small gap. Like for a second, he was seeing the thought instead of being inside it. And it felt strange, because the thought was still there. Nothing had changed on the outside, but his relationship to it was different. Have you ever had a moment like that? Even briefly, even if it didn't last, a moment where you notice the thought happening instead of getting pulled by it? If you have, you've already touched this other part. It's not new, but it's almost never used on purpose. It doesn't react. It doesn't try to control anything. It notices. And this part needs a name too, because just like the failure predictor, it has a role. It's not here to defeat the thought. It's here to not confuse itself with it. This part is the calm observer. It's not strong at first, not dominant. It doesn't speak loudly. Actually, it barely speaks at all. It just notices. It notices the exact moment the thought appears. It notices the shift in your body. It notices the urge to adjust, avoid, delay. And most of all, it notices that all of this is happening without automatically turning into action. And that changes something fundamental, because up until now, thought and action were fused. One single sequence. It appears, you react. Now there's space, small, but enough for something new. And no, this doesn't fix everything. The failure predictor is still there, still generating scenarios, still trying to convince you. And sometimes you'll still follow it. Ryan still does. There are days he slips back into autopilot, delays, avoids, protects himself, and only notices after. But now there's awareness, and that changes the quality of it, because before, he didn't even see it. Now he does, even if it's after the fact. And that alone is different because there's no punishment, no heavy inner dialogue. Here we go again. Why am I like this? What's wrong with me? That was part of the pattern too. Now Gerd, when he notices, he just acknowledges it. Okay, I went with it again. No drama. No need to fix the past, just seeing it. And that creates a new possibility in the next moment. Can you imagine that happening for you too? Not as a big transformation, but as small moments of noticing. When the thought shows up and you recognize, that's the failure predictor. And in that recognition, something slows down. Even if just for a second, that second matters. Because in that moment, you're not fully inside it. And in that space, the calm observer starts to actually exist. Not as an idea, as an experience. And the more that space shows up, even if it's small, even if it's inconsistent, you begin to see something. The thought is still just a thought. It doesn't become reality on its own. It doesn't force you to act. It only suggests with a lot of conviction, but still a suggestion. And that's hard to hold at first. Because what you feel in your body is real. The discomfort is real. The urge to avoid is strong. But little by little, Ryan starts doing something different. Not always, but sometimes. The thought comes, this is gonna go wrong, and he notices, feels it in his body, recognizes the urge, and doesn't react at the same speed. Sometimes he still delays, but sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he sends the email, even with the discomfort. Sometimes he takes on the responsibility without being completely sure. Sometimes he stays in the conversation, even when he feels like pulling away, and nothing magical happens. There's no big breakthrough, but something subtle shifts. He starts to see that what he feared doesn't always happen, and when it does, it doesn't carry the weight he expected. And that begins to update the system, not through force, through experience, through repeated moments where the thought showed up and wasn't automatically followed. And maybe the most important part, he starts to feel something new, not full confidence, but space, a kind of inner lightness, like he's not completely trapped inside every thought that appears. And this doesn't remove fear, but it changes his relationship to it. You don't have to wait for the thought to disappear to act differently. You just have to not obey it right away. And that is a practice, a quiet one, no audience, no external validation, but deeply transformative, because over time you begin to step out of your mind and start seeing what it does, and that changes everything, even if just by a few millimeters. And sometimes a few millimeters is enough to open a completely new path. It doesn't start as a plan. Ryan doesn't wake up on a Monday and decide, I'm going to train my mind for the next 30 days. There's no moment like that. What begins is quieter. It's the repetition of small moments where he notices and doesn't react the same way. That's it. And slowly, those moments start to add up. At first, they're rare, maybe one or two in a whole day. Moments where the thought shows up, this is going to go wrong, and he recognizes it. Okay, that's the failure predictor, and that alone shifts something. Not enough to stop the reaction every time, but enough to slow it down. In the first few days, the pattern still runs most of the time. He still delays replies, still overchecks things, still avoids small exposures, but now there's awareness. And awareness changes the quality of the experience, because before, everything was automatic. Now, there's something in between, and that creates friction, a small pause. Have you noticed that? When you start seeing a pattern, it doesn't disappear, but it's not invisible anymore either. It starts to bother you in a different way, not because it's worse, but because now you can see it. And seeing changes everything. Over the next few days, Ryan starts trying something, not as a rule, more like an experiment. Every time the thought shows up, he tries to do three things. No perfection, no pressure, just trying. First, he notices the sentence. He doesn't try to change it, doesn't argue with it, just recognizes it. This is gonna go wrong. Second, he asks almost quietly, what am I actually trying to avoid right now? And the answer doesn't always come, but sometimes it does. Messing up in front of people, looking unprepared, being judged. And that reveals something important. The thought isn't about the situation, it's about the fear underneath. And when that becomes visible, the pattern loses a bit of its grip, because now it's not a vague prediction anymore. It's a specific fear, and specific fear can be seen. Third, he does something small, not the complete opposite, not something big, just one small step. He sends the email without checking it a fourth time. He shares an idea in the meeting, even if he's unsure. He doesn't delay that message. Simple things. Almost nothing, but done with the thought still there. And that part matters, because the goal isn't to act without fear, it's to act with the thought present without fully obeying it. And that starts creating a new internal experience. The thought shows up, but it doesn't fully take over. And this repeats, day after day, not perfectly. There are days everything goes back to automatic. Days he doesn't notice at all. Days the failure predictor runs the whole show. And on those days, the old pattern tries to come back strong. See? Nothing changed. This doesn't work. You'll always be like this. But now, something is different. Ryan doesn't go into that second layer. He recognizes it. That's part of the pattern too. And that keeps the loop from getting deeper. There's no punishment, no dramatic reset, just continuation. The next day, he tries again. And that's the practice, not a rigid method, a relationship that's being built, a different way of relating to his own mind. And over the weeks, something starts to shift. Not the volume of the thought. It still shows up, but its authority. It begins to lose that automatic weight, that feeling of this is the truth. And it becomes one possibility, a suggestion, a prediction, among others. Can you feel that difference between something that feels like a fact and something that feels like a maybe? It's subtle, but it changes how you respond. And there's a specific moment when this becomes clearer. Ryan is in a meeting, a few people in the room, a presentation going on, and suddenly someone asks for his opinion. The thought shows up, automatic. This is gonna go wrong. His body reacts. The urge to protect himself kicks in, but this time, there's space. He notices it, feels the fear, and still speaks. Not perfectly, not brilliantly, but enough. And nothing happens. No one reacts badly. No one criticizes him. The meeting just moves on, and he notices something almost strange. The thought was wrong. Not always, but that time. And that doesn't erase the pattern, but it weakens the certainty. And when certainty weakens, control loosens. And then the practice continues, not as an obligation, but as something alive. Because in the end, this isn't about stopping the thought. It's about not being ruled by it. And that takes time, repetition, small moments that seem insignificant, but added together change everything. And there's a sentence that starts to make sense here, not as motivation, just as something you begin to notice. The small step is what changes everything, because it's there that the pattern starts to break, not all at once, but from the inside out. And maybe, if you look closely, this same practice can start for you too, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, but with the very next thought that shows up. When the sentence appears and you notice it, that's already the beginning. Even if you still follow it, even if you only see it after, it's still different, because now you saw it. And seeing is the first movement of any real change. It's Tuesday morning, Ryan sitting in the company parking lot, engine still running, coffee in the cup holder, already going a little cold. He got there a few minutes early, but he hasn't stepped out yet. He's just sitting there, looking at the steering wheel, breathing a little more shallow than usual. There's a meeting in 15 minutes. Nothing unusual, but today he knows he'll have to speak. There's no way to fully avoid it. And, like always, before he even opens the car door, this is gonna go wrong. His body reacts, a slight tightness in his chest, jaw tense. That almost automatic urge to grab his phone and distract himself for a few more minutes. But as this time, he doesn't go straight into autopilot, not because he feels confident, but because he remembers. He remembers what he's been practicing, so he stays right there, still in the car, and he watches. No rush. The thought is still there, the discomfort too, but he doesn't try to get rid of either. He just organizes quietly 3 things, like he's writing them down in his head. Line 1, the exact thought, this is gonna go wrong. Line 2, the fear underneath, I'm going to say something wrong, and they'll realize I'm not as prepared as I should be. Line 3, one small concrete action, walk into the meeting and speak at least once, even with this discomfort. Nothing Nothing big, nothing life-changing, just that. And you can probably picture this moment, not as an idea, but as something that could happen today. You'd paused before something simple with a similar thought, and this small gap, not to fix everything, just to see. Ryan takes one more breath, turns off the engine, steps out. Every step toward the elevator, the thought still there. Nothing disappeared, but nothing got bigger either. He walks into the building, nods at someone in the hallway, goes up. The meeting starts. For a few minutes, he just listens. The thought shows up again, quieter now, but still there. This is gonna go wrong. And then the moment comes. Someone asks a question. There's space. And for a second, he feels the old impulse, stay quiet. But he also notices something else. The space, that small space he's been practicing. And inside it, there's no certainty, but there is a choice. He speaks. Not perfectly, not for long. But he speaks, and the meeting keeps going. No one reacts badly. No one corrects him. Nothing dramatic happens. But that's not the point. What matters is what happened before. The moment the thought showed up and wasn't automatically followed. And this is usable, not tomorrow, today, in the next small moment, in the next almost invisible decision, the next time that sentence shows up, like it's the truth, because that's where, right there, something different can begin. Even if it's just a small shift, even if no one sees it, even if you still feel everything, it's still a different path. Maybe none of this is new, but the way you're seeing it now is. Because the thought is still there. It didn't disappear. It didn't suddenly get weaker. In a lot of moments, it still sounds convincing. It still shows up with that same tone of certainty. This is gonna go wrong, and your body still responds. That slight tightness, the anticipation, the urge to adjust, avoid, hold back. None of that has completely changed, but something isn't the same anymore. You saw it, even if only in a few moments, even if only after everything already happened. You noticed that this thought doesn't come out of nowhere, that it's not you, that there's a specific part trying to predict, to protect, to prevent. The failure predictor, and when that starts to become clear, even if it's still unstable, the relationship shifts. Not in a dramatic way, but enough to create space, enough to notice before reacting, enough to sometimes choose differently. And that doesn't transform everything at once, but it changes the direction. Because little by little, you stop living inside the prediction and start seeing it happen, and that is quiet. No one around you notices. There's no recognition, no applause, but internally, it's a kind of freedom that starts small and grows over time. Not because the thought disappears, but because the automatic obedience starts to loosen. And maybe the most important part is understanding that this wasn't random. This pattern made sense at some point. It tried to protect you from something, from exposure, from getting it wrong, from disconnection. It tried to make sure you wouldn't go through that again, and that's why it stayed, repeating, getting stronger, becoming automatic. But today, you're not in that same place anymore, even if your system still reacts like you are. And that's why seeing this now matters so much, because it creates the possibility to update, not through force, through experience, through small moments where the thought shows up and you don't step into it the same way. And if this is starting to land, maybe it's worth noticing something simple today. No effort, no goal. Just watch. How many times does that sentence show up? When does it get stronger? And what do you usually do right after? Don't try to change it. Just see it, because that's where it begins. Not with control, but with awareness. And over time, that turns into choice, and choice changes everything. Even if just by a few millimeters, the shadow has a name, and when it has a name, it loses some of its hold. And maybe, for the first time, you don't have to believe everything your mind says. Maybe you can just listen and decide later, in your time, your way. No rush. Thanks for staying with me. You're not alone in this.